Hey guys, special edition of the Build Show today. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus, the steps that my company, my small business, my small construction company is taking to be safe and to not spread the disease. And as a special guest, I've got my wife, who's actually an internal medicine physician. So we're going to talk on this video some precautions that you can take for both your field and your office operations if you're a small construction company like ours. So first off, Christy, why don't you talk to us about some things that guys in the field can do to make sure that they're not getting sick and then they're not spreading the disease?
I think the most important thing people need to remember is that this disease is spread by contact droplets on your hands and also through surfaces and also respiratory droplets. So that means that when you cough or when you sneeze, those droplets can travel quite far. So we recommend something called social distancing. We're actually too close right now. We should be about 6 feet apart, which is quite a distance. I mean, it feels kind of awkward to be that far away from someone when you're with them. But that's really important because if that person coughs or sneezes, or even if just by talking you release respiratory droplets, and people can spread COVID-19 before they have symptoms. So this disease is spreading when people feel fine, and that's the most worrisome thing about it. You may not have any symptoms at all, but still have the ability to transmit it to another person. Also, too, any contact surfaces, so places that you touch frequently.
Like your doorknob coming into the house.
Right, or the doorknob to the porta potty. That needs to be cleaned regularly, either with, an alcohol-based wipe or with at least 60% alcohol, or some sort of sanitizing spray. And that needs to be done at least daily.
Yeah, so every couple hours, really, probably, right?
That would be ideal. And after you use the restroom, I understand that job sites don't often have soap and water. If you do have soap and water, you should wash your hands for 20 seconds, which is also a really, really long time. And the most important thing about when you wash your hands is the contact between the two hands, because it's the friction that causes the disease to get off of your hands.
Makes sense.
Or if you don't have soap and water, an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol would be great. And don't, when you put the alcohol-based sanitizer on your hands, don't wipe it off. You're supposed to continue to rub your hands together, that friction,
until they're dry,
and allow it to dry.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some other things to think about are, I would recommend not sharing tools between workers on the job site. And also, too, I would not use a common water cooler. I would have everyone bring their own water, so that they're not continuing to touch the water cooler and using the spout, the spigot, and having, where you put your mouth. That's a highly contagious.
You could touch the spigot when you're filling. And
accidentally or on purpose,
yeah.
So I would have them bring their own source of water. No sharing utensils, limit sharing of food on the job site, things like that.
Another thing that we're telling our project managers is let's not stack trades. Let's only have one trade on the project at a time. You don't want electricians, carpenters, plumbers all on site at one time. Let's just use one trade at a time. That way, let's say the carpentry team who's working on this project behind us, they can have a conversation about staying away from each other, getting work done, but also not being too close. And also pull out, let's say if there's 3 guys working, 3 different circular saws, so you can have your own saw that you're working off of during the course of the day, rather than having multiple trades there. Let's talk for a minute about office operations. At my company, we have a 3-person team that does our accounting and our back office. We're sending everybody home but one person, so they'll work from the office space. They can also receive packages. The other 2 are going to work from home. We're a pretty cloud-based company. We use both QuickBooks in the cloud and Builder-Trend, and so all of our job invoicing, all of our communication, all that can happen through the cloud, through mainly our Builder-Trend software, which means that one person in the office can be working, everyone else can still be getting stuff done, but they can be in their own places. We're also telling our project managers to not come to the job unless they have to. So for instance, if you're in some phases of construction where you don't need to be there, don't go. Stay away. Work from home as much as possible, and don't congregate at the office. Don't have multiple people. We really want the office to be as bare as possible during this time.
If you do start to experience symptoms and you're concerned about COVID-19, some things to watch for are a cough, a fever, chills, things like that. Things that you might feel like are the flu or just a common cold, but especially a fever, I would call your primary care physician first. Don't show up at their office. Do not go to the emergency room because you're potentially spreading COVID-19 to others around at the office, at the physician's office, or at the emergency room. So call before you go. There's some very straightforward things that can be, and guidance that can be given over the phone. Also, too, there's some great online resources, and you can contact a physician 24/7 through some online services.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description, but you've got one in particular here, right?
Yeah, the one that I particularly know about is ascension.org/online care. And then you can use the code HOME and only be charged $20. You can have a face-to-face virtual visit with a physician 24/7 from all 50 states. And this is a really great way to screen your symptoms and talk to a physician online virtually without having to go anywhere. You know, the most important thing about this, I know people probably think we're just going crazy or we're taking too many precautions, but and most people that get COVID-19 are going to have very mild symptoms.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you're probably a healthy construction worker like me. You're not worried about you in particular, but who are we worried about?
Well, we're worried about the immunosuppressed and people with chronic diseases. So anyone that has any sort of lung disease, COPD, emphysema, if they have any respiratory suppression, if they're receiving chemotherapy, if they're on prednisone, or if they're older, 60 to 65 and older are the ones that we're worried about. So anyone with any sort of immunosuppression or chronic disease, and anyone with diabetes. So it's really not for
ultimately
yourself.
We're worried about your parents and my parents,
We're worried about our grandparents and our parents,
parent.
right? And I just want to stress that we are taking these precautions because we want to treat others the way that we would like to be treated.
That's right.
And so think about your friend that's going through chemotherapy or has cancer or someone with diabetes. We all know those people. This is why we're taking these types of precautions that may seem extreme, but they're really not. We're out to protect people around us.
Yeah. And what a blessing, too, that this is not affecting adversely children or pregnant women, things like that. You know, generally the healthy portion of the population, if you get this, the overwhelming odds are you're going to be fine. But what we're trying to do is limit that spread, and as Christy said, help that older generation to make sure they don't get it. There's a great CDC guideline on this that I'll put a link to. It's just cdc.gov/COVID-19. This has some great guidelines as well. And we made a memo for our company and for our subcontractors. If you'd like to see a copy of that, I'll put a link in the description. It'll be on our buildshownetwork.com site as well. Guys, God bless you out there. Be safe, be careful. Pray for our leaders for good wisdom during this time, that they would know how to lead during this time. Pray for all those small businesses out there like ours that are wondering what's going to happen. But ultimately, we're going to be fine. We're going to get through this as a nation, and hopefully this will be a shorter period of time rather than a longer period of time to get through it. Hit that subscribe button if you're not currently a subscriber. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show. How about you?
Great. Should I say there's a lot of misinformation out there?
Do it. Say it.
Okay. Also, one last statement is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I would really stick to websites that you know are reputable, like cdc.gov. And don't believe all of the hype that you see and the fear-mongering. There are some very straightforward things that we all need to do to protect others around us.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you later.